The following program, The Russ Belville Show, is intended for responsible adults only. We advocate to the repeal of marijuana prohibition for adults. We discuss the science, culture, and controversy about America's marijuana laws. We do not advocate any illegal activity and encourage all listeners to learn their state and federal marijuana laws. Opinions and claims made by guests and advertisers on The Russ Belville Show are their own, and The Russ Belville Show cannot be held legally responsible for their validity or reliability. Viewer discretion is advised.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!
Spanning the continent to bring you the truth about cannabis and marijuana law reform.
I smoke pot and I like it a lot.
From the promise of legalization.
And I think that we need to rethink and decriminalize our marijuana laws.
To the agony of prohibition.
One major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
The Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Yeah, I hear you had a question for me.
Now, here's your host, Radical Russ Belville.
Good afternoon, tokers and tokettes. Actually, Brian the Red sitting in here at Roller J Studios, and Radical Russ Belville is on his way en route from the Portland airport, coming back from the High Times Medical Cannabis Cup in LA or San Bernardino or wherever it actually was. Anyway, glad you could all join us. Like I said, he's en route and we'll be having a live show as soon as he gets here. But in the meantime, we're just going to play a couple of music tracks and hang out until he gets all ready for you. So stay tuned. This is 420 Radio and the Russ Belville Show. We'll be right back in a little bit here.
Gonna tell you about the jumping jive. Jim jump the jumping jive. Cat's gonna beat out this mellow jive. Beat it out on the mellow side. Boy, what's you gonna say that game? Oh boy, what's you gonna say that game? Palomar, Shalimar, Swanee Shore. Let me dig that jive once more. Boy, right on down to oh boy, now can't you hear those happy cats call? Yeah. Come on boys, let's have a ball. The jam jump is the jumping jive. Makes you dig your jive on the mellow side. Hep hep. Hep hep. The jam jump is a solid jive. Makes you 9 foot tall when you're 4'5". Hep hep. Hep hep. Now don't you beat that ickaroo, get hep. Come on and follow through. Then you get your steady fool. You make the joint jump like the gators do. The jam jump is the jumping jive. Makes you like your eggs on the Jersey side. Hep hep. Hep hep. The jam jumping jive makes you hep hep on the mellow side. Hep hep. Hep hep. Hep hep. Hep hep. The jam jumper is the jumping jive will make you dig your jive on the mellow side. Hep hep. The jam jump is the jive will make you 9 foot taller when you're 4'5". Hep hep. Don't you be that ickaroo, get hep. Come on and follow through. Then you get your steady food. You make a joint jump like gators do. The jump like the jumping.
Thanks for your patience, everybody. Radical Russ here. Literally just walked in off of the airplane and trying to get ourselves all set up here at Roller J Studios, give you a good show today. The news is coming up next, so stick around for that. And coming up later, we've got our regular segment with Dr. Mitch Earlywine, Cannabis Q&A. Make sure you get your questions ready in our chat room or dial in at 971-533-7111. Also, a guest from rehabs.com at the end of the show. Should be a good interview. Stick around.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisers because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Hey, tokers and tokettes, Radical Russ here to introduce you to my friend Matt and all the staff at Lush LED Lighting. Growing plants indoors can be a rewarding hobby, but electricity bills can go through the roof. Then you have to cool down all those big hot lights. It can drive a grower insane. With Lush LED Lighting, you can solve many of these issues and double your rewards. If you thought LEDs were meet the tech of today, Matt and his scientists have developed the perfect light for flowering plants with far less cost and heat. And the results? Let's just say I appear at a lot of events with the masters of indoor horticulture, and the harvests I saw from Lush LED Lighting were big, tight, sticky, and very effective. Check out LushLEDlighting.com right now and tell them Radical Russ sent you. Double your rewards and lower your expenses with Lush LED Lighting. You can get 420 Radio on the go with the TuneIn Radio app for all mobile platforms. Go to rad-r.us/420tunein or just click the TuneIn Radio icon below the live radio feed on 420radio.org. I'm Radical Russ Belville, and I want to thank you for listening to 420 Radio. We couldn't survive without you and our sponsors, and I'd like you to check out one of our prime sponsors, the National Cannabis Coalition. I've been working with NCC since June of 2012, and I'm proud to be part of the team they have assembled. National Cannabis Coalition is building the partnerships with reformers, lawmakers, and industry we need to be successful. Visit the National Cannabis Coalition website at nationalcannabiscoalition.com or the easier-to-remember ncc420.com. That's where you'll get the exclusive first look at my radical rants, as well as informative articles from the nation's top cannabis pundits. Visit ncc420.com today, and if you have your phone handy, text Russ to 420-420 to support NCC and 420 Radio. It's a free text message that helps us help you end adult marijuana prohibition. Learn more at ncc420.com, and thanks for supporting independent marijuana legalization public radio. This is your 420 Radio News for Monday, February 10th, 2014, brought to you by the National Cannabis Coalition. I'm Russ Belville. Texas jury declines to indict marijuana grower who shot cop during raid, from the Weed Blog. On December 19th, 2013, the Burleson County Sheriff's Office executed a search warrant on the home of Henry Goodrich McGee. One of the officers that participated in the raid on Mr. McGee's home was Burleson County Sergeant Adam Souders. Sergeant Souders and other officers were searching for marijuana and guns. During the raid, Henry shot Sergeant Souders, killing him instantly. Henry Goodrich McGee was facing capital murder charges in addition to other charges related to marijuana possession. However, a grand jury declined to indict Mr. McGee last week on murder charges, although they are still pursuing marijuana possession charges. Mr. McGee's attorney, Dick DeGuerin, stated in court that his client thought he was being burglarized due to the no-knock entry into his home and that he was only acting to protect his family. It's sad any time marijuana prohibition takes a life, whether it be the life of a marijuana consumer or an officer. If Texas didn't have marijuana prohibition in place, Sergeant Souders would never have been there that morning. He would still be alive, and his family would not be grieving. Michigan High Court rules for medical marijuana, from theweedblog.com. In a bellwether case, the Michigan Supreme Court has ruled that cities and counties cannot pass ordinances that conflict with the state's 5-year-old Medical Marijuana Act. The ruling came in the Turbeek v. City of Wyoming case. In that case, registered patient James Turbeek sued the city of Wyoming after it passed a 2010 ordinance designed to block the use of medical marijuana in the city by prohibiting the use, cultivation, or manufacture of the plant. Turbeek, represented by the ACLU of Michigan, argued that the ordinance made him fear arrest and prosecution for activities explicitly protected by the medical marijuana law, and that the state law should preempt the local ordinance. The city, on the other hand, argued that its ordinance sought to uphold federal as well as state law, and that the Federal Controlled Substances Act preempted state law. Federal laws prohibiting marijuana do not preempt the State Medical Marijuana Act because, quote, it doesn't interfere or undermine federal enforcement of that prohibition, the court wrote. That doesn't mean people protected under state law are immune from federal arrest or prosecution, the court was quick to note. Brooklyn is decriminalizing small amounts of marijuana, from HuffingtonPost.com. Brooklyn's new district attorney has reiterated his vow not to prosecute low-level marijuana arrests. Ken Thompson said Sunday during his inaugural address, quote, I not only want to keep Brooklyn safe, I want to protect the future of our youth. That means we must change the policy regarding those who are arrested for possessing small amounts of marijuana. In 2012, over 12,000 people in Brooklyn were arrested for possessing small amounts of marijuana, mostly young black men, Thompson added, referring to a 2013 report that found blacks in Brooklyn were 9 times as likely as whites to be arrested for marijuana possession. New poll, Coloradans still support marijuana legalization, but have some doubts, from the Denver Post. More than half of Coloradans say marijuana legalization has been bad for the state's image, even though a majority also continue to support the new laws, according to a poll released Monday. 51% of Coloradans surveyed for a Quinnipiac University poll said they thought legalization has been bad for Colorado's image. However, 58% of people said they continue to support marijuana legalization. That's even more than the 54% of people who told Quinnipiac pollsters last summer they supported legalization. Amendment 64, the law that legalized marijuana use for people over 21 in Colorado, passed in November 2012 with 55% support. Despite the support for legalization, the poll finds Coloradans more tepid on marijuana use. 10% of those surveyed said they had used marijuana since recreational pot shops opened in January. That use matches almost perfectly what the National Survey on Drug Use and Health says for Colorado in 2011 and 2012. Slim majority supports allowing medical marijuana in Kentucky, from Kentucky.com. A slim majority of Kentucky voters is ready to legalize medical marijuana, according to a Herald Leader WKYT Bluegrass poll. The survey asked 1,082 registered voters whether they favored or opposed allowing the medical use of marijuana in Kentucky. 52% were in favor, 37% were opposed, and 12% were not sure. Support for medical marijuana was highest in the 18 to 34 age range at 60% and lowest among voters 65 and older at 35%. Democrats were more likely to say they favored allowing medical marijuana than Republicans, with 58% of Democrats and 43% of Republicans supporting legalization of marijuana for medical purposes. This has been your 420 Radio News for Monday, February 10th, 2014. I'm Russ Belville. Transcripts from 420 Radio News are available exclusively at the National Cannabis Coalition. Visit ncc420.com for details. When we come back, we'll go behind the headlines and give you a look at the 4th annual Southern California Medical Cannabis Cup that I just returned from in San Bernardino, California. You're listening to The Russ Belville Show on 420radio.org. We'll be right back. The law offices of Omar Figueroa would like to remind you to stand up for your rights. Please do not give up your precious liberties. There's nothing wrong with standing up for our constitutional rights, and in fact, it's the best way to honor the Constitution that recognizes our natural rights. Treat law enforcement with respect and respect the Constitution by standing up for your rights. If you are detained or arrested, stand up for your rights by repeating, I respectfully invoke all of my legal and constitutional rights. I do not consent to any search and seizure. I want to remain silent, and I want to speak with my attorney, Omar Figueroa. Omar Figueroa has more than a decade of experience in federal and California courts and graduated from Yale University, Stanford Law School, and Trial Lawyers College. Please contact the law offices of Omar Figueroa at 415-489-0420 or 707-829-0215 or on the web at omarfigueroa.com.
Let him bring in the beat.
Adam Hand of Handmade Apparel produces quality custom designs for t-shirts, hats, and other apparel. Handmade Apparel is the official design shop for 420 Radio, The Russ Belville Show, Ganja John, and Cascadia Concentrates, among many clients who rely on Adam Hand for everything from short-run custom projects to full-run clothing lines. Adam's meticulous designs are individually crafted and screened in vibrant, high-definition color. Visit handmadeapparel.biz to browse the selection of handmade gear or to get a personal quote for your own designs. Handmade Apparel, a proud supporter of 420radio.org.
Let them bring in the beat.
420 Radio is 24-hour marijuana legalization radio. Check out our prime time lineup every weekday at 5 p.m. Pacific Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. On Mondays, it's Stony Sundays with Coral Reefer from San Francisco, California. On Tuesdays, Weed Nerd with Subcool from the Emerald Triangle of Northern California. On Wednesdays, Free Weed from Danny Danko from Brooklyn, New York. On Thursdays, Jorge Cervantes TV with Jorge Cervantes from Barcelona, Spain. And on Fridays, The Jody Emery Show from Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. That's 5 p.m. Pacific Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and 1 a.m. GMT right here on 420radio.org. Welcome back, everybody. It is 17 after the hour. Sorry for us being a little bit late today. The plane was late, leaving Sacramento about 20 minutes off, so I didn't have the time to prepare like I normally would, but decided I'd just bring you some of the candids and shots that we took at the High Times Medical Cannabis Cup this weekend. Of course, I had to get my In-N-Out burger. It's not a California trip until I get my In-N-Out burger. And let's see. Let's go forward here. There we go. Oh. Wrong direction. That's my TSA line. Let's see if we can get this to work now. Okay, so one of the booths that was there was C-3PO buds, and they actually had a plane flying around the event, trailing a banner that said C-3PO bud. I don't know if the name C-3PO bud is right. I think it should be C-420. That would make a little more sense, wouldn't it? Diane Goldstein from Law Enforcement Against Prohibition was in the booth right next to me, so we had a chance to talk and hang out. In fact, I've got an interview with her that we'll be playing later on this week as well. Also, Bianca Barnhill from 420. Now, it's in reverse because it's an Instagram selfie, so it's actually IVXX, not XXVI. That would be 24. Or 26, actually. So 420 IVXX, Bianca Barnhill. Check her out. And Spark the Conversation is the name of one of her latest projects. The guys from the Cash Hide Foundation, Mike and CJ, were there. And they're talking about putting together some reggae runners and an event up in Portland that I might be a part of. So we'll look forward to that. Hope we can get to be a part of that. Candace Hawes from OC Normal. Again, reverse selfie because it's Instagram. We also had the two different initiatives. The California Cannabis Hemp Initiative, also known as the Jack Herer Initiative, was there, and a booth for the Marijuana Control, Regulate, and Legalization, Revenue Legalization Act, MCLR. So those two booths were there for Californians to be able to get more information about the competing initiatives in the state of California. California Normal was there as well. Ellen Comp there on the left. And there's more of our 420 people, IVXX, hanging out. The schedule was packed. There was a lot of great stuff to check out. And like I said, we'll have some of that for you the rest of this week on the Russ Belville Show. Our good friend Josh from Oil Slick on the left with Adam Hand from Handmade Apparel on the right, both supporters of the Russ Belville Show. In fact, we'll have some new ads coming up for Oil Slick pretty soon. We managed to land a sponsorship with them. We've got, of course, the party cannot start until Coral Reefer has shown up. Coral Reefer's got another great set of pins, her Stay High pins. She gave me a free pin, so that was very nice. Thank you, Coral, for that. We've got, you can't go to an event without the 420 nurses because it is medicine. So you are definitely going to need some nurses on hand in case you need nursing, I guess, whatever that might be. And Pony Boy from Los Marihuanos right there to my right with the rest of the crew there at one of the booths. So we had a good time hanging out with Pony Boy. This woman found herself a big effing joint. That's likely to happen. And Bobby Black did an interview with Josh from Oil Slick that'll be appearing on hightimes.com. All right, and that means it's time for us to take our 20 after break. I know I need one. I've been on a plane all morning, so we're going to find some kind of a sativa. When we come back, we'll have our daily Toker tunes for Roots Mondays. Stick around.
Oh, have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. Have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. If he said he swam to China, he would sell you South Carolina. Then you know you're talking to that reefer man.
I'm Sub Cool from Team Green Avenger. At TGAgenetics.com, we are working on the leading edge of medical strains. Our strains are rigorously tested for THC, CBD, THCV, and other critical cannabinoids. Know your grow. Check out our genetic diversity at TGAgenetics.com, the home of Jelly Bean, Jack the Ripper, Vortex, and other award-winning cannabis strains.
Support the Russ Belville Show. Text the word Russ to 420-420 and connect with the National Cannabis Coalition. You can also send $10 to the Russ Belville Show right from your smartphone. That's Russ to 420-420.
In the afternoon, if I'm home, I smoke marijuana.
You're listening to Radical Russ on the Russ Belville Show.
Marijuana, yeah, yeah. I got my ganja.
Georgia. Hi, this is Willie Nelson, and I need your help. Our marijuana laws are terribly unfair, and they make criminals out of law-abiding citizens. Nearly 2,000 Americans are arrested every day on marijuana charges, and we are unfairly destroying the lives and careers of hundreds of thousands of people simply because they smoke marijuana. These are not criminals. They are average citizens like you, good neighbors who work hard, raise families, pay taxes, and contribute to their communities. And it's time we stopped arresting responsible marijuana smokers. We need your help to end marijuana prohibition once and for all. It's the fair thing to do.
For more information, contact NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. Call toll-free 888-67-NORML or visit their website at norml.org.
Everyone knows music and marijuana go together, so let's wind up our 20 after break with the Russ Belville Show's Daily Toker Tunes, the best in pod-safe 420 music from around the web. Today is Roots Monday, featuring the blues, country, folk, and jazz music that birthed the modern sounds we enjoy today. Now, sit back and enjoy your Daily Toker Tunes.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Time for Daily Toker Tunes. And like I said, I'm just kind of pulling this show right out of my backside. I just literally came in 5 minutes after the show started, after having landed from my flight from Ontario Airport. We flew Ontario to Sacramento and then Sacramento to here. The plane was delayed by 20 minutes. Otherwise, I'd have made it on time. So trying to put some stuff together. I don't know what our good friend Bacon Dan has put together for us as far as the music. I do see the artist, a very, very good artist that we love here at 420 Radio, Elvis Costello. And this is a song from Elvis called Lip Service.
Practice
change your mind, you can send a little letter to me. Don't make any sudden movements. Is that dangerous amusement? When did you become so choosy? Don't act like you're above and just look at your shoes. Everybody is going through the motions. Everybody is going through the motions. Are you really only going through the motions? Lip service is all you'll ever get from me. Lip service is all you'll ever get from me. Lip service is all you'll ever get from me. But if you change your mind, you can send a little letter to me. But if you change your mind, you can send a little letter to me. But if you change your mind, you can send a little letter to me.
Support the Russ Belville Show. Text the word Russ to 420-420 and connect with the National Cannabis Coalition. You can also send $10 to the Russ Belville Show right from your smartphone. That's Russ to 420-420. You're listening to Radical Russ on the Russ Belville Show.
Marijuana and alcohol are the two most popular recreational drugs in America. Marijuana smoking is non-toxic, relatively safe, and has a low risk of dependence. Alcohol drinking is potentially fatal, dangerous to society, and is quite addictive. Marijuana is safer, so why are we driving people to drink? That's the question of the new book, Marijuana is Safer, So Why Are We Driving People to Drink? By Paul Armentano, Mason Tvert, and Steve Fox. Visit Amazon.com or ChelseaGreen.com today to order your copy of Marijuana is Safer, or visit marijuanaissafer.com.
Did you miss your favorite 420radio.org show during its regular airtime? Don't worry, you can catch the replay this weekend on 420radio.org. Visit our schedule page for more information.
It's time for the Russ Belville Show's Cannabis Q&A with Dr. Mitch Earlywine. Dr. Earlywine is a professor of psychology at the State University of New York at Albany and a leading author and researcher on cannabinoids and health, who pins the Ask Dr. Mitch column for High Times magazine. Get your questions ready in our live chat or call in to 971-533-7111 now.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Time for our Cannabis Q&A with Dr. Mitch. How you doing, Dr. Mitch? Oh, got to unmute.
Florida, actually, to give a talk at UCF.
Oh, you're in Florida?
I'll be there tomorrow morning and giving a talk on Wednesday at University of Central Florida.
Oh, that's great. Good luck for you getting out there, out of the airport, down to nice, beautiful, sunny Florida. I just returned from Southern California, got myself a little bit of a sunburn to go with the snow up here in Portland. So sounds good for both of us.
Excellent.
All right. Well, folks, we want to remind you that we're taking your live questions here for Dr. Mitch Earlywine. You can enter them through our chat room, or you can just go to our phone and dial 971-533-7111. But we always like to start off by giving Dr. Mitch the chance to tell us the latest in cannabis science.
Crazy week this time, and actually there have been nothing but reviews out and things that we sort of already knew, so I didn't want to get us too distracted.
Okay. I'm finding some interesting things through the Weed blog. It almost seems like there was a dump of scientific information over the weekend. Lots of stuff for us to cover. A study's coming out of the European Journal of Neuroscience that tells us something that a lot of our older listeners already knew, that cannabinoids may be an effective treatment for osteoarthritis. And they say currently there's very few drugs that are good for osteoarthritis, and cannabis may be one of them. Can you tell us how cannabis can help folks with osteoarthritis?
I just want to emphasize that Shenang talked about this in 2800 BC. So, I mean, the idea that they're acting like this is something brand new and discovered is pretty hilarious. But generally, it looks like some of the cannabinoids' anti-inflammatory effects sort of keep the inflammation down associated with it, so that then any of the pain associated with that pressure seems to decrease. And otherwise, the mechanisms aren't super clear, but we've seen other analgesic effects of cannabis mediated through that CB1 receptor, and it looks like this may be very much the same sort of thing.
Oh, that's really, really good news, and it's something that speaks to a point that I like to make about marijuana legalization. Our opponents like to make this fear that legalizing marijuana is going to lead to this rampant use by teenagers, and I think it's just the opposite. I think we're going to see rampant use by older folks once they realize it's good for pain and arthritis.
Well, and what's neat is that aspirin and other analgesics that seem to be really hard on the liver can be basically consumed at much smaller dosages, and I think we're going to see a whole lot of better health in those later years.
Oh, good to hear that. All right, we've got another study that came out on the Weed blog that was kind of interesting. This one having to do with our eyes. A journal called Experimental Eye Research published this, and it was also through the National Institute of Health, that found that cannabinoids may delay retinal degeneration in those with retinitis pigmentosa. Can you tell us what retinitis pigmentosa is and how cannabis may be helping it?
I mean, loosely, what we're talking about is basically the way the back of the eye is colored, and how that may be altered through certain degenerative diseases. We've seen cannabis decrease intraocular pressure inside the eye with all the glaucoma type treatments. It's not treatment of choice necessarily for glaucoma because it doesn't have a great duration, but it seems like it can still definitely do that. And as you can imagine, with more pressure inside the eye, the pressure is also stronger on the retina. That may be the mechanism in this case. It's not crystal clear.
Okay, so more good news for people that are suffering. Of course, we've known many people that have used marijuana for glaucoma, Robert Randall being the first one to use it legally in the United States when he sued in 1978 to get that right. Is there any information, if we can branch out past retinitis pigmentosa, as far as glaucoma in general? Because I recall hearing something about that marijuana may not be the best treatment for glaucoma, but is it still a decent treatment?
As it turns out, Canisol eye drops, which are cannabinoid related, seem to have a longer duration than most smoked cannabis. We've never seen a randomized clinical trial with edibles or with any kind of ingested THC, and I feel like in part because edibles have that longer duration, that may be a way to sidestep some of the problems associated even with vaporized cannabis. But we just don't have the data. But clearly, the issue has always been that the effect tends to wear off after about 3 hours, and then the pressures start to increase again. Rob Randall, of course, had approval to then go ahead and redose. Some of us aren't in places where we have that luxury.
No, really. All right, we've got some questions coming in from our chat room. Brian Kerr asks a question that's tangentially related to inflammation. He'd like to know, does cannabis help hemorrhoids, like a topical cream, perhaps?
We haven't seen a randomized clinical trial on this. It's funny because inflammatory processes are inflammatory processes, so if there was a compound that wasn't going to irritate the hemorrhoid worse, that would have some potential promise. I got to admit, we've got some pretty compelling data on some of the compounds in Preparation H and Tux and things like that, where those seem to do pretty well.
All right. And another question from our chat room, Eddie Grove, Vermont, would like to know your opinion on the effectiveness of cannabis tinctures versus the Rick Simpson oils.
Unfortunately, I don't have, basically straightforward access to the Rick Simpson oil, but when you think about, well, what is inside each of these, obviously it's going to be the cannabinoids. Most tinctures that are alcohol or glycerin-based are going to have the same compounds, even if they aren't necessarily in the same concentration. I don't want all the Rick Simpson fans berating me via email, but it really is the same stuff. So I'm not sure how the Rick Simpson oil can have any magic over and above a perhaps larger dose of the tincture.
Okay. We've got some time for some more questions and some more studies here, but want to remind you halfway through here that if you don't get a chance to get your question answered or you don't want to ask it in a public setting, you can always send your questions in by email to 420research@gmail.com. Now we go over the Atlantic Ocean to the Mail Online, and I saw an interesting study that has come out. The headline says, "The Mystery of the Munchies Revealed." And it reminds me of something Keith Stropp has always said on his stump speeches. He says cannabis makes food taste better, makes music sound better, makes sex feel better. This study says cannabis use heightens the sense of smell and taste. As in, it's not our brains just being high thinking it tastes or smells better. It actually does. We actually heightened our sense of smell and taste. Can you speak to that study a little bit, Dr. Mitch?
It's intriguing because this has always been everyone's suspicion, but nobody's been able to really sit down and make this happen. And folks in food and appetite generally have standard tests to try to see if we can get finer and finer distinctions with known concentrations of basically taste-related chemicals. And this study essentially showed that it does seem to be enhanced. Both the olfactory and the gustatory stimuli seem to be better. Basically, you got a better acuity. I don't want to assume that this is the whole effect, however, because we actually see improved consumption of food even in unicellular organisms. We're talking about protozoans here, things that don't really have very elaborate gustatory systems, also tend to eat more in response to THC and other stimulation of the CB1 receptor. So this is definitely a big part of the effect, but probably not the whole story.
Yeah, it was interesting how they figured this out. They took some mice and exposed them to banana oils and almond oils for the scent. They sniffed them at first, and then they got bored with them. But then when they gave them some THC, they all went back to sniffing, and all the THC mice ate more. Then they went and took the cannabinoid receptor out of the olfactory bulb of these mice's brains and then found the THC didn't work. So they're saying this is actually receptors in the olfactory bulb of the brain of these mice. And, it kind of goes to what we've said many times is there's cannabinoid receptors all throughout the body.
And up and down the phylogenetic spectrum. I mean, I think it's pretty amazing that we can even generalize from these kind of animal studies to our own experience, but odds are high we can.
All right. We have a question from our chat room coming in. Wants to know if you happen to see the Deputy Drug Czar, John Botticelli, being grilled by Representatives Blumenauer and Representative Cohen, and what your thoughts were on that.
I didn't see it, but word is out. They cornered him into saying that cannabis is less dangerous than alcohol. Is that your read of it?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Obama had said that marijuana is no more dangerous than alcohol. That's kind of a less than or equal to, when it really should be a less than, but close enough. We'll take it for now. And yeah, Botticelli was forced to and it's just their standard two-step dance they've got to do in Congress because the Drug Czar's office is required by law to oppose the legalization of Schedule I drugs. And that leads me to my question. Would the rescheduling of cannabis out of Schedule I do anything at least at the level of being able to talk about cannabis at a federal level?
What's intriguing is Jacob Sullivan had an article on this in Reason or in his Forbes column recently, and the deal would be at least it would open up the opportunities for research if it were down to, say, Schedule III. And in truth, as Lester Grinspoon and I have been saying for years, it would qualify for Schedule V when you start thinking about abuse potential and medical use. But the opportunity for at least to have the DEA not be stifled on this once it's down from Schedule I is definitely there. So even cocaine, which is Schedule II, while marijuana is Schedule I, that irony would be kind of lifted, and they can talk about medical uses of powder cocaine, even though they can't talk about medical uses of cannabis. It's just nuts.
Yeah, I saw your quote in the Forbes piece where you'd mentioned that Rohypnol, the date rape drug, is Schedule IV. I didn't even know that.
Well, and I mean, in truth, if you're going to use it to help you sleep and things like that, it's probably pretty effective.
Yeah.
But obviously, it's way more dangerous than cannabis. How is that Schedule 1?
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Well, we hope that gets changed. All right, we have time for one more study that I've got pulled up here from the Weed Blog. This is a study coming out of China, and it was a study on the effects of repetitive transcranial magnetic stimulation on chronic unpredictable stress. They've been using these magnetic treatments apparently, and now they're finding that cannabis might be a better alternative treatment option for this mild stress. And we all know that cannabis can be good for stress, but what is this magnetic stimulation they're talking about?
So this was a wild and very promising thing back in the late 80s and early 90s. These really strong magnets can, in fact, stimulate certain brain structures in order to not only alleviate stress, but some initial data suggests that it might dissipate craving for the opiates and things like that. But in the long term, a really strong magnet up by your brain over and over and over again is not exactly without its negative consequences. So it turns out this may not be the treatment of choice as far as relaxation and stress reduction is concerned. Obviously, I'm a big fan of relaxation practices and meditation and general mindfulness-based stress reduction. But when all comes to the end there, a little bit of cannabinoid before bed seems to do just about as well. And compared to transcranial stuff, it's certainly got fewer negative consequences.
Good point. All right. One last question from our chat room. I'm going to modify it a little bit. John Thomas is asking about NIDA and their stranglehold on marijuana research. I'm going to tailor that a bit to ask, could we be seeing a possibility toward the end of Obama's term where there may be some movement on this scheduling so NIDA won't have the stranglehold on the research?
Well, already in, Washington and Colorado, the strangle is lifted. So anybody who can purchase cannabis legally can also get IRB approval to use it in their laboratories as long as they're not on a federally funded project. A lot of universities have been frightened about this, and they feared for their federal funding to other investigators, but I really feel like that's going to be the beginning of some really delightful new research on this topic, even if it's just exposure to cannabis cues where it's real cannabis. Even if people are apprehensive about letting people use cannabis right there in the lab. I should point out, too, that Valerie Curran and a few other folks in the UK now basically have folks bring in their own cannabis, and they seem to be getting away with some of that as far as Q exposure stuff is concerned. And I think ethics boards are going to get a little more flexible on this in the near future.
That's good to hear. I love the idea of BYOB cannabis studies.
You know it.
Bring your own buds. All right, Dr. Mitch, thanks for joining us here. He's here with us every Monday answering your live questions on cannabis science, and have fun in Florida.
Thanks, kindly. Talk to you next week.
All right. When we come back, we are going to try to get on the line a researcher from the website rehabs.com who has a very interesting set of data for us to look at. We're still trying to get the phone connected, so cross your fingers, hope for the best. We'll be back in a minute.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisements because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Georgia. Hi, this is Willie Nelson, and I need your help. Alcohol prohibition didn't work in the 20s, and marijuana prohibition isn't working today. It's time we stop arresting law-abiding citizens because they prefer marijuana over alcohol. Nearly 2,000 Americans are arrested every day on marijuana charges. We're unfairly destroying the lives and careers of hundreds of thousands of people each year simply because they smoke marijuana. These are not criminals. They're average citizens like you, good neighbors who work hard, raise families, pay taxes, and contribute to their communities. We need your help to end marijuana prohibition once and for all. It's the fair thing to do.
For more information, contact NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. Call toll-free 888-67-NORML or visit their website at norml.org.
You can get 420 Radio on the go with the Ustream video app for Android and iPhone. Go to rad-r.us/420Ustream or just click the Ustream app icon for Android or iPhone below the live radio feed at 420.
Wait, you're all right, lads. It's like my head, you know. We had a chat with everyone. Hey, Jill, how are you? Everything's absolutely amazing. I haven't seen you for ages. Haven't seen you last week. I mean, you're not invited. I know you. What's your name? Oh, don't tell me. Don't tell me. I'll make you the What are you laughing at? A little bit stressed, a little bit panicky. You look a bit panicky, a little bit stressed. What's your name? You're all right. You're feeling okay.
The more you mess with cannabis, the more it can mess with your mind. To find out more, talk to Frank.
Warning. Hits taken on this show are larger than they appear. Do not try this at home. These people are professionals. Or at least they pay me to say that. Activism begins with ACT. The Russ Belville Show features the stories of hardworking grassroots activists working for an end to prohibition in today's activist agenda.
Welcome back, everybody. 47 after the hour, and we're dialing out to Kristen Tinsky. She's the vice president of creative arts there at Fractal, actually, Fractl. They're a content marketing company, and they've been working with rehabs.com, and they had a very interesting set of data having to do with the experiences of users of various drugs and how those drugs, how they felt those drugs affected them. Let's see if we've got Kristen on the line. Kristen, are you there? Hello, Kristen? Oh, I'm afraid we don't have anyone there at the at Fractal. Wasn't sure we'd be able to get them on the line. Unfortunately, we are unable to. So give me just a quick moment of break and I will pull up some other content for us. Stick around. We're doing it live here on 420 Radio.
Those are these beats are strong, like roots is what every brand needs. Nurture your plants, this is no fantasy. All lives got your man, treat them herbs properly. But the Babylon a mix up in a pure fuckery. Sell crap to the youths, them not treat them wine. Me not go stand for that. Yes, me have to tell them.
All right, folks, we're still waiting for some of the videos to process. We'll have video for you in hour 2 for our Toker Talk Radio. Lots of great stuff from the High Times Medical Cannabis Cup. For now, I'll just show you some of the pictures from the High Times Medical Cannabis Cup that took place this weekend. That booth right there, I think that's shooting fish in a barrel. It's a booth called Sugar High, and it's like the candy aisle at your local convenience store, and then energy drinks and soda pops. At a cannabis cup, man, that's like shooting fish in a barrel. That's just too easy. And they were doing some great business there, I'm sure. Talked to the girl that was running the place, and she said, "Oh yeah, been pretty busy." I do like that the new Cannabis Cup logo actually has San Bernardino on it. You know, the last one was supposedly LA, And then we had to move out to San Bernardino on the last minute. Here's 3 of our volunteers. On the right is Yaya, Stephanie, and Julian on the left. They brought out the big screen TV for our booth. That was very, very helpful. Thanks for doing that. Oil Slick was the very first booth you got to when you went into the medicating area. It was like telling people how to get to the medicating area. You just pointed at the Oil Slick tent. And there you can see some wonderful wax that's been made by, I'm not sure whose that is, but it's of course on some Oil Slick pads there. We'll be getting some Oil Slick pads for the studio, by the way. That'll be very nice. Oil Slick, very, very popular. They were interviewing with Bobby Black while I was back there. And of course, Oil Slick's a big sponsor now of these cannabis cups. I got to talk to Josh quite a bit, and he says, business is just booming. It's just crazy, making money hand over fist. And I got a new pin, new handmade apparel Oil Slick pin. Very nice. Purple, matched my suit. Adam Hand was there with handmade apparel as well. And lots of the different booths there were using handmade apparel gear. They were giving away t-shirts that Handmade had made. So it's nice to see the people in our industry are getting the play that they deserve. Of course, there's all sorts of great glass. And one of my favorite pieces of glass, and I've got a video of this coming up later this week, was this guy who makes custom glass that's made for a vaporizer. Like, I can't remember the brand of vaporizer he had, but the base of normally you'd have a bong, right? And it would sit on its own base. But where the base would be, instead, there's a hole on the bottom of it, and then it mounts on this little stand, right? So if you want to use it just as a bong, you put it on this stand, and you can use it as a bong. But you take it off the stand, it's got the hole in it, and you can put it over the vaporizer hole on this particular model of vaporizer and vape with your glass, which I loved that. I thought that was a great idea. All sorts of different container companies as well there at the Cannabis Cup this year. This was Sea Vault. Dab sticks. If you know about dab sticks, we've got a dab stick around here somewhere. These guys had not only a 10 by 10 booth, but it was a full steel platform that had a second floor. So they were up on the balcony of this thing, throwing stuff out to the people in the crowd like it was Mardi Gras. Like, you're expecting girls to lift up their tops for beads, right? It was just crazy, all the stuff that was going on there. And plenty of vape pens. And although, it's technically a misnomer to call these things vape pens because they're not vaporizing. They're still combustion, right? It's just a little tiny element that you're getting the combustion with. But nevertheless, that's the popular thing now at these cannabis cups, is the use of the oils, the wax, the shatter. So you're going to see a lot of pictures in here of people doing dabs. Lots of dabs going on at the Cannabis Cup. But I will make note. There you go. See, dabs. I will make note of the fact that High Times and the vendors did a much better job than I've seen at any other of these Cannabis Cups, making sure that young people and newbies knew that dabs are serious. There were signs all over the place that say, dabbing is very extreme experience. Make sure you sit down, stay hydrated. Most of the booths that I went to that were offering dabs had bar stools out front, so you could actually sit down while you were doing your dab. It was amazing. Be Real TV was there. They had 2 booths there for Be Real TV. In fact, the cannabis media is just exploding. It used to be I was the only guy there covering these kind of things. Now I was in a row with like 3 or 4 different radio outlets. There was various Be Real TV and those kind of guys out there in the medicated area. So the cannabis media is just beginning to explode. I had at least 2 or 3 people drop off cards for me that are starting some sort of network, some sort of cannabis channel in the California area. So who knows, folks? Maybe the TV dream isn't dead after all. We shall see. These are some of the capsule or the cartridges that are available. It's just amazing to me how many different types and flavors we've got now in the vaporization scene. It's just amazing. Here's our 420 radio booth. We got the banner up there in our booth, as well as a big screen TV. Like I said, our volunteers brought the big screen TV. There's next to us the We the People radio. They were also there with Safer Arizona, collecting some signatures for Arizona. And we talked a lot about how tough. In fact, I'll say it right now. Arizona is the toughest place to be a stoner. It's the worst state to be a stoner as far as the laws go and how much time you can get. Even for just a speck of marijuana, you can get a felony in the state of Florida, or the state of Arizona. A pot pipe, if it's been smoked out of, felony, right? Pot pipe that's not been smoked out of, a pretty serious misdemeanor. Now, there's one of the reggae runners. That's, of course, the Cash Hide Foundation puts together these little reggae runners, which are the little tyke cars, little plastic cars that kids run around in, but with, reggae colors and Believe, and it's all benefits the Cash Hide Foundation. Little Cashy passed away, but his fight still goes on in trying to raise awareness of the pediatric use of medical cannabis. So, fighting cancer with smiles and miracles happen. Make sure you look up the Cash Hide Foundation. And again, I mentioned how pins are really big. Here's just a few of the new pins, some Pepe Le Pew skunk pins and some crystal pins. That's becoming a big deal in the cannabis community. For $15 you can buy a pin and it'll last forever. 20 years from now, you can talk about where you got that pin. Bobby Black here hosting one of the grow panels. Both grow panels were very, very well attended at this event. And people were getting all the great information on how to grow quality cannabis, and especially learning now about having to deal with pesticides and molds and mildews as more of these states start having more standards for marijuana, especially in the legal states. We're going to have more and more of these questions being asked about how to properly cure, how to properly purge all these different concentrates and such. So these events, these High Times events where you can speak directly to the people who are the experts, get your questions answered directly, talk man to man, woman to woman, person to person on these things. It's just amazing. Of course, all sorts of developments in pipe technology as well. I'm not exactly sure how this one works. I think it was a push button carb is what that little button on the top is there. Could be wrong, but it's like an attachment that you can put on any size tube. It's a what?
That's the Fumo pipe. You don't know about the Fumo pipes?
I don't know about the Fumo. I don't know everything.
You need to get into the Fumo.
I can't know everything, man. There's the Dab Sticks booth. The Dab Sticks booth, you can see the stairs going up to that second level platform. That's the first steel booth I've ever seen at one of these events where you could get up on the top of the thing. That's something else I'd like to really get for 420 Radio. Can you imagine us doing a show from the top of a deck like that? It would be a lot of fun. They say there were about 10,000 people that showed up at this event. I saw coverage of it in USA Today while I was on the plane today. USA Today had an article on the event. More vape pens of just every different style you could possibly want. That is certainly the way that that the hardcore recreational consumer is moving toward vapes, toward wax, shatter, butter, and these vaporization pens. They're just so convenient, so easy to use, not always having to look for a lighter, not always having to try to find a torch or a dab rig. They're very, very popular, especially down there in Southern California and out in Colorado. Now here, of course, is one of the items that I really love is these electric nails. There's a couple of them. You can see the little temperature gauges there to the right, keeping those nails at a constant temperature, 747 on one of them and 766 on the other. And that's just, I hope that's not Fahrenheit. I don't know what that's standing for. Maybe it's Celsius, 74.7. Maybe that's what it was. It's probably Celsius. I like this poster with buckwheat and alfalfa. Otay, O-H-T-A-Y, Otay, and I forgot. It went by too fast. I couldn't read it. Let's see if I can go back to the Otay one.
Let's see if I can pull it up here.
I got it. Go back to that one. There we go. Otay, officially higher than all y'all. Otay, officially higher than all y'all. That's pretty funny. Hey, that's all the time we got here for hour one, and thanks for, no suit, no tie, no credits, no captions. I just ran in and did a show because I missed y'all. We had a lot of fun down there in Southern California. We're going to talk more about it here in hour two. We got some videos ready to go so you can get a look at what this weekend's High Times Cannabis Cup was like, and you can prepare for the next one taking place on the 420 weekend in Denver, Colorado. That's right, legal Cannabis Cup. You don't even have to be a patient. You just have to be an adult. I'll be there. We hope you will too. For Brian the Red, I'm Radical Russ. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it,